Last year, we celebrated Gabriel's birthday in Atlanta, and we got a piñata to celebrate it with Mama Rollo's family. And it was a dog of some kind, if I remember correctly, and of course, everyone was taking whacks at it with a big stick. And then my mother-in-law steps up to the plate to this unexpected paper mache dog. She's got the stick in her hand. The dog has been withstanding all the blows so far, and I'm running interference trying to keep all the little kids at a safe distance so they don't get whacked in the head when someone rears back to swing. And then my mother-in-law comes back with the stick like Babe Ruth up to bat, swings through, and the head of this dog goes sailing across the driveway and lands in the yard on the other side. No one expected her to take a swing like that. And she wasn't actually the one who released all the candy, but she definitely did the most aggressive and most entertaining whack on this dog of any of the rest of them. And seeing my mother-in-law beat the head off this piñata got me thinking about rough times in life. Sometimes it feels like you're a piñata being beat up by your circumstances. Sometimes it feels like someone like my mother-in-law has just knocked your head off because of how rough things are. And by the way, I love my mother-in-law. This is nothing against her. It's just a funny story. Maybe you feel that way during this lockdown, that life just keeps on whacking you with a big stick. Yet the piñata also shows us something about God, that the pain, the hurts, the beatings, they end with sweetness, like the candy pouring out of the piñata. In fact, God promises that he will use the disappointment, the pain, the suffering, the trials to bring us his good gifts in life. And when we can trust that, we can forgive those who have sinned against us. You see, yesterday we talked about how Joseph showed us that we need to trust God's rule over this world in order to forgive. Today, Joseph shows us that we also need to trust that God is working for our good in order to forgive. I mean, we looked at verse 19 yesterday. Look at where he says in chapter 50, verse 20. As for me, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. Joseph shows us another important truth in this statement, actually two important truths in this statement. First, Joseph understands that human beings really do hurt other human beings, not just by accident, but with evil intentions. Sometimes the beatings on us make us feel like we're a piñata that is being willfully, intentionally beaten by others because of their sins against us. Joseph's not looking at this with unrealistic eyes or expectations, thinking that humans are basically good and no one's really trying to hurt us. No, he knows that his brothers committed evil against them. He says, you meant evil against me. He knows they meant it for evil. But then there's a second reality here that Joseph gives us. God meant it for good. That one overrides the first one. Who's really in control of the situation? Who's making the sweetness come out of the piñata? Whose purposes will always win out, even when people mean evil against us? God's. Life may beat on us like a piñata. People may have genuinely evil intentions and sin against us, but God is always in control, and his purposes always win. Man may mean evil against you when they sin against you, but God's plan is final, and he uses it for your good. And when we look at life and the sins done against us in that way, through the truth that Joseph shows us here, even when we feel like we're a piñata that's being beaten by a mother-in-law that's got a really big stick, we can find the power to forgive. When we embrace the truth that God brings out of the sweetness of all the beatings, we can look at those who have sinned against us with compassion, with pity, and we can forgive them, like Joseph does here. That's what Jesus even did on the cross when he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Jesus knows that God's power is overruling what is happening there, and God is using it for the ultimate good of all time, so he can have compassion and pity on those who nailed him, literally nailed him to the cross. Therefore, Jesus pities them and he forgives them. And when we choose to trust that God is working for the good in our lives, we can pity those and have compassion on those who sin against us, and we can forgive them as well. When we know that they meant evil against us, but God meant it for good, we can forgive them, and we can trust and rest in God's work. So you guys think about that, and I'll see you again tomorrow.